The Battle of Waterloo was Napoleon fighting England. Is that correct? And you said that was the last war that wasn't a bankster's war.
Well, and largely, so that was a bankster's war insofar as he's already been exiled to Corsica.
Yeah.
And the French are really unique culturally. They're quick to rebel against tyranny.
Yeah, they've definitely got rebellion in their blood.
They got it in their blood. It's fantastic. And because Napoleon was he was very similar to Washington, like a very revered figure. The patriots, the brave, good men of that time, were willing to fight, and they just go into a fire with him. And the banksters knew this. Largely, their enemies in, I believe it was Austria, knew this as well. And they brought back Napoleon largely to go execute the remaining patriots of France, to then take over France. Because if you study what happened, that was first French Revolution, second, what ends up happening? Oh, the central banks take over and, no more uprisings. Sorry, folks, you're done. We're in control now. But the battle specifically was strategically set up to surround Napoleon and send the remaining patriots of France to slaughter.
Wow.
And they used that. So that was primary goal number one, or maybe primary goal number two. Primary goal number one is whatever the result of the battle is, we're taking over the Bank of England. So they famously sent the riders to misreport on the outcome of that battle.
Oh, yeah. So finish that thought, because this is when the Rothschilds take over the Bank of England.
So we're going to finance a battle that's going to destroy any opposition physically to us taking over France. But we're going to do that, and we're going to make sure we corner all of the gilts, which is the name of the bonds in England at the time, and own the Bank of England. And we're going to do it in one fell swoop. I mean, you got to admit it is friggin' masterful.
Yeah.
And these people who have done this are cunning.
But can you unpack that? So it was the results of this battle. The information hadn't arrived back, but
Correct.
They sent false information.
They came back and said England lost the battle.
Okay.
Right. And it was agents of the central bankers, right, of the Rothschilds in this specific instance. And so the markets all tank. He's there to buy everything up. And then the next day, whoops, we won.
Yeah. Right.
And that's like, to me, understanding a little bit deeper about history. Let's call that modern day false flag number one.
Yeah. Right.
Let's cite that as the very first false flag created and implemented by the central banksters, because they do all of them from 9/11 to a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's brilliant, insidious, masterful information arbitrage, exploiting creating an asymmetry. Actually, I guess the asymmetry existed in that they had early access to the information. Then they propagate misinformation, use it to tank the market, buy up the whole market. Then the price reconciles to the truth that England won, and they own the whole thing, and they own the whole empire. They own the empire.
The king had to bend the knee immediately.
Yeah.
And then, okay, all right, all you pilgrims are going over to England. We're coming for you next.
Yeah.
60 years later, up 2% tax. I mean, it's unbelievable. When you keep going, these forthrunnings that keep happening, it's always battling these folks. I could argue, because Neil Howe's work is 600 years.
Yeah.
You could argue those turnings coincide with these battles.
Okay, I want to pull up a video we didn't mention here, because one of the things I want to say is that the very genesis of the central bank is rooted in this problem with gold, that we need to centralize it to make it work, basically. I want to show you this clip. It's from a film. This isn't an actual person. This is an actual Rothschild, but this is, I think you could perhaps reduce the entire problem of central banking to a technical flaw in gold, and that is that gold is not portable. So we have to put all the gold in a vault and issue a portable paper note on top of it so that we can transact across space more easily. But when you put all that power in one place, you get a very corrupt institution that grows up around it. So I want to play this video.
And that is fractional reserve.
Work and strive for money. Money is power. Money is the only weapon that the Jew has to defend himself with. Oh, never.
Come, he wants to speak with you. All of you.
Come close. much money is lost through sending gold by coach from one country to another. In times of war, it is seized by the enemy. In times of peace, by thieves. You are 5 brothers. I want you each to start a banking business in a different country. One to go and open a house in Paris, one in Vienna, one in London. Choose the most important centers. In your day, there will be many wars in Europe. And nations that have money to transport will come to the Rothschilds because it will be safe. You must stand by one another. No one brother must be allowed to fail while another brother succeeds. Your 5 banking houses may cover Europe, but you will be one firm, one family, the Rothschilds, who work always together.
So when you frame it like that, I mean, you almost, it's genius. It's just like, well, they've identified a problem, right? Gold's not portable, it gets stolen by enemies in times of war, thieves in times of peace. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to distribute our family and have this trust network where we corner the market. We control the market. So in a way, it's like, fuck, it's just genius. But the problem is, had gold been highly portable, that opportunity would have never been exploitable.
No, and it's kind of brilliant because what are they really setting up? A trustless infrastructure to move
Exactly.
capital. And
Trustless.
because we're family, and you can't. I don't blame them for that at all, really, because it's a natural solve.
A trustless
right?
infrastructure. That's so
and they,
interesting.
it's, to me, it's a bigger issue of fractional reserve banking. Of course, they invented
Which
too.
automatically occurs when you, because, well,
It doesn't have to.
it doesn't have to, but the temptation is so overwhelming that no one ever resisted.
It used to not be legal in most religions.
Yeah, I don't think it's legal by law either if you have actual contract law. It's a violation of contract.
And we could all collectively agree to a 50% reserve bank. I mean, there are full reserve banks throughout the United States now, even in Florida, that are just depositor banks.
Yeah.
It's just they're not going to pay for a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
But the thing, what I grabbed out of that video, the skeptic that I am, is that, okay, well, clearly the Rothschilds are just the front men because there's other families higher up. I mean, there's the Orsini and there's others, right? But they're the ones that everybody knows their name and they're out front. The head of the central banking maybe management team, right? Because this darkness goes all the way back to Babylon. Like if we really want to dive into the history of it, it goes way before them.
I mean, I'd love to learn more about that.
It's actually called, people could search this phrase, Babylonian money magic.
Okay.
And that was effectively the first terminology for fractional reserve banking. And then you can study, okay, the gold receipts, Knights Templar, the Crusades, and how they'd we'd put it here, and then we're taking a receipt for it there. And largely the banking dynasty, Orsini and Medici out of Venice, because they were such huge merchants, they used, we're going to hire the Knights Templar or the military of England or France to guard our gold, or take the receipts or notes that were backed by the gold, because as commerce, both the velocity of it and the diversity of it grew, you needed ways to transact. And they brilliantly solved a lot of that problem. Now, ultimately, you don't see a modern day diversification of distribution of those bank houses anymore. They all answer to the Bank of International Settlements. So it's a monopoly at this point. And that begs the question, do we even have any sovereignty if there's a monopoly over everybody's money and only Iran, North Korea, Russia, China, or don't have a central bank under the system, which is the rails with which for people to question is the SWIFT system.
Yeah.
Right. And what recently happened in Russia, they confiscated hundreds of billions of
600 billion
of arguably the taxpayer of Russia's money, which they're not just like we're not to blame for the genocides and the proxies that the U.S.
Russian
military
citizens
does
aren't to
with
blame.
our money.
Yeah.
The Russian people aren't to blame for whatever shenanigans Putin does, right?
Yes. Blame. It's a hard word because
is.
once you have the awareness of this, you kind of are to blame if you don't take your purchasing power out of that system. This is something I struggle with all the time because I still hold dollars. I spend my career talking about the problems with holding your purchasing power in dollars.
Implicitly blamed here. I mean, largely after speaking about like the consciousness, like anybody can search the Knickerbocker Trust debacle, right? This is literally just stealing right in front of everybody's eyes. No one has the power to litigate it back then, and they're too poor. They want to be. They go back to their farm and they take it on the chin, right? Here, it's like, wait a minute, we all want to be better, but we don't know how to be better. Bitcoin gives us an outlet, right? But then the real challenge is at the government formation docs.
Yeah. I want to tie this into something you just said. Because you said in that video, what you observed was them creating a trustless infrastructure to move purchasing power around, right? Because they are a family. Now, my question is, do you think that works? This is going to be a little bit of a spiritual question too, I guess.
Bring it.
Do you think that works both ways? If we have a trustless infrastructure for moving purchasing power in Bitcoin, does that make humanity act more like a family?
Of course it does. That's how we're even here. You know?
That's true.
But
that's true. We met through Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I would argue a lot of the history I have reread over the last decade to relearn, like Frederick Hayek really affected me about, you got to keep relearning the natural law, the liberty movements, and relitigate this and rehash this every few years. Just keep it refreshed. And so Bitcoin made me recall, I read this somewhere, like this Knickerbocker Trust. I know the history of the Panic of 1907. The Mises site is a very good resource for this. There's been countless books. I probably read a dozen books on this panic all by myself. But then I had to go reread pieces of it to go, oh my God, this is what they used to convince Congress to then allow Aldrich and the boys who went to Jekyll Island to then go confiscate everything from us that remained in 1913. You know, so it was that awareness that Bitcoin and the beauty of all the aspects of it created for me to then rehash history I had already read and have a better understanding and a better awareness of the purposefulness behind this action and how it's led us to today.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.